Mr. Chair, I am showing 4 o'clock and we appear to have quorum.
Okay, thank you. I'll call to order the meeting of the Mesilla Valley Metropolitan Planning Organization Technical Advisory Committee for February the 6th. To start with, I'll start on the far right if people can state their name and their agency for the record.
Eddie Salazar, Tana Mesilla.
Daniel Sombrano, Doña County.
Ben Serrano, Las Cruces Public Schools.
Andy Bowen, NMSU.
Mike Garza, Doña County Flood Commission.
Tim Pitt, City of Las Cruces.
Mike Bartholomew, City of Las Cruces Roadrunner Transit.
Angela Roberson, Doña County Community Development.
Kendra Madrid, Bureau of Land Management.
Andreas Lenen, NMDOT.
Harold Love, NMDOT.
Thank you. We'll move on then to the approval of the agenda. Is there any changes to the agenda?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I'll take a motion for approval of the agenda.
Mike Garza, so moved.
Angela Roberson, second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Next item is the election of officers. The first would be the committee chair for 2025. And I'm not available to do it again another year, so I need nominations from somebody else
Mr. Chair, you should explain why.
because I am retiring at the end of March, so. So any nominations? It's an easy job, believe me. MPO takes care of everything. All you have to do is show up here and conduct the meeting. Not a problem. And once you're elected chair, then there'll be a vice chair too. So there'll be a backup for you.
Mr. Chair, this is Andreas Lenen. I would like to nominate somebody. And in my opinion, I hope he's not mad at me, but it should be either Mr. Tim Pitts or Ms. Angela Planner within the community, with either the town or the county, because I think your position, that connection, understanding how our community grows and what they do in professionally understanding all the development within our community, either one of them would be a fabulous candidate for your position.
So do you have a specific one you want to nominate?
I think Tim would be,
I would accept if I were nominated.
you know, my Tim, I would like to see him in this position if he's willing to take it, but I believe Angela would be more than qualified.
Okay, there's a nomination for one. Any other nominations? Seeing none?
We need a second.
Oh, we need a second on the nomination.
Mike Garza, second.
So there's a first, there's a motion and a second for Tim Pitts to be a nominee for the position. Any other nominations? If not, I'll just go ahead and close the nominations for the chair. And can we do it by acclamation?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Is there a vote for Tim Pitts to be the chair for 2025 by acclamation? Please all say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? I guess it's your job now, Tim.
No, Mr. Chair, Mike, you're still chair until after this agenda item is done. You have to preside over the vice chair.
Until we finish this agenda.
Yeah, you have to finish this agenda
Until
item.
we finish this agenda item. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. So Tim doesn't get to lead it for the vice chair, right?
Not quite yet.
Okay.
I will point out, Mr. Chair, we do not have a vice chair of the committee right now. I just learned that our vice chair retired last Friday. So there's a vacancy.
Isn't it? So is there any nominations for vice chair? So they would sit in for Tim if he's unavailable to be at the meeting.
I'll self-nominate. It's good to
Okay.
show 'em.
Mike Garza? Any other nominations? Or is there a second for his self-nomination?
Andy Bowen, second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any other nominations? with that, I guess I'll close the nomination process, and all in favor by acclamation for Mike Garza to be the vice chair, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Am I off the hook now?
You're
Andy?
now off the hook, Mr. Former Chair. Mr. Bartholomew, I guess.
It's been a pleasure.
Okay, do we have any more officers? Is that it?
That's it, Mr. Chair.
Okay, well then I will, our next agenda item is the approval of minutes. We'll take a motion for approving last month's minutes.
Mike Bartholomew, so moved.
In a second.
Andy Bowen, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the approval of the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Our next item on the agenda is public comment. Do we have public comment? We do have someone.
Good afternoon. I'm George Pearson and Chair of the BPAC. Our committee, as well as this committee, recommended the safety targets to the policy board. The fatality targets in the report were described as aspirational since they are lower than the reported year-to-year fatalities and the trends that have been shown. While rates are going down, active steps need to be taken to meet the aspirational goals of the safety target report. We've already had a bicyclist fatality and at least 2 vehicle fatalities that I'm aware of. This committee represents the group that creates and implements roadway designs. Please make sure that safety is always the #1 criteria. When working on a design, take another look and see if you can make design changes to create a safer, and this probably means a slower roadway. This might mean ending up with a C level of service roadway instead of a B level of service. But if this saves a life, it is well worth the effort. Maybe a 10 or 11-foot wide travel lane instead of a 12-foot travel lane. Look at the NACTO standards to help influence the designs. So hopefully with changes, it's going to be at the local level where we have to work to make the safety targets. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pierce. Anyone else? Seeing none, move on to item 6, discussion items. 6.1 is the Open Meetings Act presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would at this time like to introduce Mr. Sergio Estrada.
Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. Congratulations to the newly elected and appointed Chair and Vice Chair. My name is Sergio Estrada. I am a partner at Kemp Smith in the Government Law Department, and we at Kemp Smith serve as legal counsel to the Mesilla Valley MPO. We also serve as legal counsel to the El Paso MPO, and it is through that work that we met Andrew and formed the relationship with you all that we have now, and have been working closely with you all in the transition that you're currently going through and transitioning into a standalone MPO. We're here today to give you a brief presentation on the New Mexico Open Meetings Act. My colleague Lillian Sanchez is going to do the presentation for you all, but we were here last year. We gave this presentation last year. We're here again to do it again this year. It's a refresher. A lot of the issues or requirements of the Open Meetings Act I'm sure you're familiar with, but I strongly support Andrew's request to have us come out here and kind of go over the basics again. So with that said, thank you for having us, and Lillian's going to go ahead and start the presentation.
Good afternoon. Okay. So the purpose of us being here today is to provide an overview of OMA, which is the New Mexico Open Meetings Act, which I'm going to be referring as to OMA, the importance of it and why we should all comply with it, identify the limited exceptions allowed by OMA, and finally, just to understand the enforcements and consequences for violations of the Open Meetings Act. So the policy and purpose of the New Mexico Open Meetings Act, in recognition of the fact that a representative government is dependent upon an informed electorate, it is declared to be public policy of the state that all persons are entitled to the greatest possible information regarding the affairs of government and the official acts of those officers and employees who represent them. The formation of public policy or the conduct of business by vote shall not be conducted in closed meetings. All meetings of any public body except the legislature and the courts shall be public meetings, and all persons so desiring shall be permitted to attend and listen to the deliberations and proceedings. Reasonable efforts shall be made to accommodate the use of audio and video recording devices. Now, what exactly is a public meeting? All meetings of a quorum of members held for the purpose of formulating public policy, discussing public business, or taking any action are declared to be public meetings open to the public meetings at all time, except otherwise provided in the Constitution of the State of New Mexico or the Open Meetings Act. So overall, there's 3 big requirements that we need to remember for a public meeting subject to OMA. Number 1, if it's a policy-making body. Number 2, establishing quorum, which is a majority of the members. And number 3, formulating public policy, discussing public business, or taking any action that the body has the authority to take. Now, we need to remember that rolling quorums are prohibited and are against the law. OMA's requirement for open public meeting applies to any discussion of public business among a quorum of a public body's members. Thus, a public body may not circumvent OMA's provisions by meeting in a series of groups that are less than quorum. A quorum may exist even when the members are not physically present together at the same time or at the same place. Rolling quorums are a violation of the OMA because they are not properly noticed public meetings, and we'll touch on what's exactly proper notice for public meetings later today. So I'm going to offer several scenarios, that way it's better understanding of why rolling quorums are prohibited. Scenario number 1, is there a rolling quorum in violation of OMA when 4 out of the 6 school board members attend a school function, social, or other non-formal meeting? And the answer is no. OMA contains no specific provisions against school board members attending school functions, although the Act does control their conduct while attending these specific school functions, and there are constraints within the Act that guide the public officials attending such functions, therefore to help minimize the appearance of impropriety. Accordingly, to constitute a violation of OMA, a quorum of a public body must be present outside of an open meeting, and such quorum must be formulating public policy, discussing public business, or taking action on public business. Again, on rolling quorums, it may appear suspicious when members of a public body attend events outside of a public meeting, particularly where a quorum of the members is seen together. However, under the Act, that does not prohibit members of a public body from meeting together socially or for reasons other than public business. The mere fact that school board members may be seen together in one public place is not enough to establish that it has failed to comply with OMA's provision unless additional facts of evidence are presented that the members were discussing public business among themselves. Another scenario we have is Mr. Green and Ms. Red, 2 members of the 5-member Agave Water District, a public body, have a telephone conversation and agree to terminate the water district's executive director, the executive director. Mr. Green then prepares a termination letter, signs it, and delivers it to Ms. Red for her signature. Ms. Red then signs the letter and delivers it to the 3rd board member, who signs it and delivers it to a 4th board member for his signature. The 5th board member does not participate in the termination action. Here we do have a violation of OMA. The termination letter and subsequent signature amount to action by quorum of the board outside of a properly noticed and conducted public meeting. It makes no difference that the 4 members who made up the quorum were not together in the same place signing the letter. Now let's touch on remote participation is allowed and not allowed under the Act. If otherwise allowed by law or rule of the public body, a member of a public body may participate in a meeting of the public body by means of a conference, by means of telephone or other similar communication, when otherwise it is difficult or impossible. And we need to emphasize those 2 words, difficult and impossible, for the member to attend the meeting in person, provided that each member participating by conference or telephone can be identified when speaking. All participants are able to hear each other at the same time, and members of the public attending the meeting are able to hear all members who are attending or speaking during the meeting. OMA itself does not authorize remote participation, but when it's allowed by other laws or regulation, OMA provisions do apply. However, the difficult or impossible provision has the effect of discouraging these members from participating remotely. Thus, in all cases where it is possible for members to appear in person, they should attend these meetings in person and abstain from doing it via Zoom, phone, or any other device. Participation by telephone should occur only when circumstances beyond the member's control can make attendance possible or extremely inconvenient. Now let's touch on the notice requirements. Any public meeting at which a majority or quorum of the body is in attendance and any closed meeting shall be held only after reasonable notice to the public. The affected public body shall determine at least annually in a public meeting what notice for a public meeting is reasonable when applied to that body. So overall, there are certain requirements that must be met in order to have a reasonable notice, and that is we need to advise them in advance of the meeting. Number two, it needs to be sufficiently in advance to the public of the meeting's time, place, date, and it should be published or posted in a place or in a way that's accessible to the public. Meeting notice shall include an agenda containing a list of the specific items of business to be discussed at the meeting or information as to how the public may obtain a copy of the agenda. Except in a case of emergency, at least 72 hours prior to the meeting, the agenda shall be available to the public or posted on the public body's website if one is maintained. Except for emergency matters, a public body shall take action only on items appearing on the agenda. Again, we need to make note of the 72 hours requirement. Now, a public body may discuss a matter but cannot take action unless the matter is listed as a specific item of business on the agenda. Now, what constitutes an emergency? Emergency refers to the unforeseen circumstances that, if not addressed immediately by the public body, will likely result in injury or damage to the persons or property or substantial financial loss to the public body. Within 10 days of taking action in an emergency matter, the public body is to report to the Attorney General's office the action taken in the circumstances that created such emergency. Now, at all public meetings, the public body is to keep written minutes, and at minimum, the minutes must always include the date, time, and place of the meeting, the name of the members in attendance and those who were not there, the substance of the proposals considered, and a record of any decision and votes that were taken and how each member voted. All minutes are subject to public inspection. The minutes shall be prepared within 10 working days after the meeting, and meetings shall not become official until approved by the public body. One of the requirements is that these minutes are available to the public. Therefore, this requirement precludes members from voting anonymously, as the minutes will reflect how each member voted. Now, closed meetings under subsection H of the OMA identifies the circumstances under which certain meetings or portions of meetings are not subject to OMA's open meeting and minute-taking requirements. Because the general policy strongly favors open meetings, a public body must strictly follow OMA's provisions when participating in a closed meeting. Now, there are 10 exceptions to OMA's open meeting requirements, and some of them, I will show them to you. Number one of these exceptions is limited personnel matters such as hiring, promotion, demotion, dismissal, assignment, or resignation of or the investigation or consideration of complaints or charges against any individual public employee. Final action must be in open session. Another exception is that the portion of meetings at which decisions concerning purchases in amount exceeding $2,500 that can only be made from one source is discussed in that portion of meetings at which the contents of competitive sealed proposals solicited pursuant to the procurement code are discussed during the contract negotiation process. The actual purchase approval or final action regarding the selection of a contractor shall be made in an open meeting. Furthermore, meetings subject to the attorney-client privilege pertaining to threatened or pending litigation in which the public body is or may become a participant is another one of the exceptions. Now, the requirements for a closed meeting, there are certain things that must be met for a closed meeting to take place. Number one, the agenda item must pertain to one of the 10 exceptions listed in the act. Number two, a motion must be made stating the legal exception for closing the meeting and the agenda items to be discussed. A roll call vote must be taken in the open meeting, and the minutes must include a statement regarding the closed session. Only those subjects voted upon prior to the closed meeting may be discussed in the closed meeting. No resolution, rule, regulation, ordinance, or action of any public body shall be valid unless taken or made at a meeting held in accordance with OMA's requirements. Now, there is a presumption that an action taken by a public body was taken in accordance with OMA's requirements. Where that is shown not to be the case, the public body's actions may be held invalid. Now, one of the final points we're going to address in this presentation is the enforcement and the penalties of violating OMA. Now, all OMA provisions must be enforced by the Attorney General or by the District Attorney in the county of the jurisdiction. A private individual may apply for enforcement through the district courts, provided that the individual first provides written notice of the claim violation to the public body and that the public body has denied or not acted on the claim within 15 days of receiving it. A court shall award cost and reasonable attorney's fees to any person who is successful in bringing a court action to enforce the provisions of the Open Meetings Act. There is a criminal sanction, and any violation of OMA is a misdemeanor, punishable up to $500 per violation. Furthermore, according to the New Mexico Compliance Guide, it is the intent of the Attorney General to prosecute misdemeanors only in the case of knowing in either flagrant or repeated violations of the requirements of the Act. The Attorney General will not prosecute when there has been a good faith attempt to comply with the Act. Now, in most cases, if a violation is found, the New Mexico Attorney General will enforce OMA by first advising the public body that an action taken by the public body was not compliant with OMA and is consequently not valid. Unless there is a history of OMA violations, the public body will then be advised to begin again and consider the intended actions in accordance with OMA's provisions. That's it for now. Does anybody have any questions? Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Item 6.2, Metropolitan Transportation Plan Update. Dominic.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the TAC. Dominic Loya for MPO staff. So we are in the final stretches of the MTP. Just we're going to go over the basics again, as well as kind of where we're going. The Mississippi Valley MPO exists to serve as a regional forum for transportation planning and decision-making for central Doña County. It also works, the MTP and the MPO also work for eligibility for federal funding for transportation projects. As part of maintaining the federal eligibility, the MTP, which establishes a long-range vision for the MPO area, enables project development and completion. And then for the next MTP, it will be serve all transportation users by planning, implementing, and maintaining a transportation system that coordinates land uses and transportation planning. This is the same one from the last one. We will just be updating the last plan because of 2020. A lot of stuff that was in that plan has not been implemented yet because everything was slowed down due to inflation and a few other things in general. So right now we are currently having stakeholder meetings within the jurisdictions. Some of you have already had stakeholder meetings. We are still trying to finish those up. We are bringing public comment from the first round to the stakeholders. So our public engagement schedule coming up. We're going to have one round of public engagement to finish this up because we have to have this done and adopted in June of this year because as of on July 1st, the current MTP will go out of compliance. So that one round will be in April of this year. We'll have at least 3 public meetings, one in northern Doña County, one here in the city of Las Cruces, and then one in southern Doña County. And then it'll go before the policy board, the TAC, and the BPAC. So these are the goals. They are the same goals as I said from the last one. Nothing has really changed in that matter, just because these also are the ones that basically come from the federal regulation. We've not had any new federal regulation in the last 5 years. And this, of course, is the ultimate goal to develop an integrated, well-functioning transportation network that effectively serves the needs of the residents of the MPO area. So the timeline, as I said, right now, we are in stakeholder meetings, and we've done some stakeholder meetings. We are still looking to finish up 2 or 3 more. In April, we'll go for public comment, and this will be basically final round of public comment so that the final document can be seen. As it is, we will also bring it back to the stakeholders in April to make sure we have everything correct from the stakeholders. And then in May, it'll go before the BPAC for their recommendation. June, it'll come before the TAC. And then it'll be up for policy board adoption in June as well. And as I said, it has to be adopted before June 30th of 2025. I will now stand for any questions.
Any questions for staff? No, looks like we're good. So moving on to item 6.3, Technical Advisory Committee presentation. Again, we have Mr. Loya.
That's correct, Mr. Chair. I will be doing this one as well. So basically, this is just a kind of an overview of what TAC is for and kind of the things that should be discussed and brought before for updates. So this is, basically to promote regionally significant projects, enhance and coordinate those projects, plan and collaborate on multi-jurisdictional projects. And that's specifically for funding opportunities, because the more jurisdictions involved, the better chance there is of getting those projects funded. It is also to provide professional advice and expertise to the policy board, as they are elected officials. So they do need the advice of staff to be able to understand some of the intricacies of planning and implementing different transportation projects or projects in general. And as I said, this also provides opportunities for the joint jurisdictional projects. So some of these projects could be something like Engler Road, because it does cross multiple jurisdictions. It starts in the city of Las Cruces, goes into the county, crosses BLM land, crosses EBID irrigation canals, things like that. So this would be one of those projects that could be good for doing something at a major level with federal funding and presenting it that way whenever federal funds become available. So TAC updates. Things to bring forward are anything that's regionally significant. Basically any type of roadway changes on in improvements on collectors and arterials. But they can also be on locals that cross jurisdictional lines, because there are a few of those that do. Any type of bicycle and pedestrian improvements, any type of grant-funded infrastructure projects, any type of new transit infrastructure, any new transportation and transit policies or programs that are coming, into effect. These are kind of the things to go ahead and bring forth for updates. And I'll now stand for any questions.
Questions for Mr. Loya? I don't see any.
Mr.
we
Chair,
have one.
Andreas
Yes.
Linden, NMBOT. Dominic, I have a question. Whenever we amend or add the projects onto the tip for us for review and track, the initial project presentation, I haven't seen one in a while. Is that from the stakeholder, the entity that present the project, or how is that so that the other TAC members and entities understand scope and impact of these type of projects?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Lennon, that would actually be our preferred method, is for the entity to bring it forward and give the presentation, because they're going to know. I can present how much money, I can present as I do whenever we do a tip update, but I don't know the ins and outs of what the project is going to be. I only get a very limited scope of that. So we would prefer, especially for new projects, that the entity that is doing them bring them forward and do a small presentation on them.
Mr. Chair, I would just like to make a comment to the group that we maybe should ask for this when we have these moments in our decision-making, when the tip updates are coming through, that we get a little bit more of the scope and project description.
Yes, I agree. I think that's something we should, each member should do, should be the bring it forward, because I know Dominic does do the presentation, but that what we get is a limited, this is the project, and difficult to ask questions, difficult to know what the scope of work is. So I think it's a great idea. Yeah.
And even if we submit it to you before the meeting and you would like to do it, but at least so we understand more than the financial changes on the project. Thank you very much.
Okay, anything else? No, then we'll move on to item 6.4, call for projects, transportation project fund presentation.
Dominic Lloyd for MPO staff again. Mr. Chair, so the Transportation Project Fund has been released at this point for the call for projects. So this is the state-funded projects. So the type of eligible projects, like I said, these are just a few that they mentioned: environmental and other studies, planning, design, construction, acquisition of rights of way for transportation infrastructure. In the application process, there needs to be a cover letter with an overview, and if there's an intent to apply for a hardship waiver, because there is a hardship waiver to this, if necessary, what the time frame is, the verification of funding to complete work. So it does need to be basically have a letter signed either by somebody such as the county manager, city manager, or the body itself, whether it's the town board, city council, board of county commissions, to saying that this money has been dedicated for this project. This project can be on locally owned rights of way, as long as they don't have federal funding, and then any type of NMDOT owned or NHS route, so the National Highway System route. All right, so basically the other thing that's needed is the category of the project. There is going to be a project feasibility form with the project feasibility form meeting. Resolution of sponsorship, as I said, it's a 5% match on this one. Map of the location, a letter of support from the owners of the project rights of way, especially if the local entities do not own it. So if it's on an NMDOT right of way, NMDOT needs to be consulted on it, and they need to provide a letter of support for it. Same thing if it's say a trail or something that somebody else is putting in. If it's on Doña County's right away, it needs to be, the letter of support needs to be from Doña County or the city of Las Cruces. If it's on the city of Las Cruces right away, if it's somebody else doing it. All right, so the timeline of this, because there's a ranking component to this, it will be a slightly truncated timeline. Project feasibility forms will be due March 21st, but at noon. There will be a PFF meeting. The project feasibility meeting will be on March 28th. We confirmed that with MDOT. So it'll be, slots will be from 1 to 3 in the afternoon on that Friday. The full application will be due on April 2nd. There's going to be 4 presentations for this one. There'll be initial presentation to Policy Board on April 9th so that they understand what all the projects are, and they will have to start thinking about their rankings of the projects. BPAC will then put a recommendation in on April 15th. It'll come before TAC on May 1st, and then Policy Board will rank it. There'll be a resolution and action item to send to NMDOT on May 14th. And then this does have to come to the MPO. The MPO will upload them to the NMDOT FTP site before May 31st. And I will now stand for any questions.
Do we have questions for? We've got one from, we'll get on to the end. No, oh, I thought, okay.
Mr. Chair, Andreas Lenen, not a question, but I just want to add to this topic. NMDOT state-funded local government program is holding a workshop here in Las Cruces on February 12th at the Solano Yard, starting at 8 a.m. It's a 4-hour workshop for all entities interested in LGRF, capital outlay, and TPF funding. So we would like you guys, if you're one of the entities that looking forward using any of these funding, invite you to join us that morning to learn more about how to utilize these funding sources.
Could you repeat that?
Actually,
the
Mr.
date?
Chair, Mr. Lenon, could you please forward the information for that meeting to MPO staff so we could just distribute it to all the members of the TAC? I think that would be the most effective way to get the info out there.
I will do that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mike Bartholomew, when the presentations are done for the BPAC and TAC, is there going to be a kind of a recommended ranking that they're going to be forwarded to the policy committee, or are we just going to make comments on those presentations? I was just curious at what the process was there.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Bartholomew, well, that's weird to say. We are going to require the BPAC and the TAC to provide a recommended ranking. That seems to be the most equitable and fair thing. And the last time that we did this, that was heavily taken into consideration by the board in their final rankings. I think that the board would be upset with us if the advisory committees did not provide their advice.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any more? Yeah.
Mr. Chair, this is Tony Trevino with the City of Las Cruces. So this process has changed from last year then, right? Because I believe last year we just presented at one meeting for the TPF grant, and it was ranked there.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Trujillo, yes, sir, it has changed. This year so 2 years ago, there was a ranking process. Last year there was not, and then they've gone back to now having a ranking process. So it has changed. It's kind of gone back to the way it was before, but it has changed since last year.
Thank you, sir. And one more question. How much money did Harold put in that bucket of money for the TPF? Is there like a limit the state has that's going to disperse out, or that's unknown at this point?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Trevino, we are not aware of the dollar amount. That was not given to us by NMDOT. I would have to defer to NMDOT staff, but the blank looks I'm getting, I'm not sure that DOT knows how much money is going to be.
Andreas Lenen, it's about 40 million this year,
40 million? So about the same as last year, broadly speaking.
as far as we know up to today.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, any more questions?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Sorry, I have a question. Correct me if I'm wrong. So annually, the call for projects comes out. The entities individually submit their applications presenting to the various committees. The various committees then rank them, prioritize them, and make a recommendation. And after that, though, it doesn't seem like we hear much about the TPF projects. The individual entities get notified whether or not they are awarded. but correct me if I'm wrong, is there ever a report back to these bodies on what the awards were across the state?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Roberson, or Ms. Roberson, we have never historically given an MPO level report out on the results of actually not TAP, RTP, on any of the annual calls for projects. We could start doing that for the TAC once we have that information to hand, if that's desired by the committee and the committee thinks that would be useful information.
Mr. Chair, I would like to request that this group just be notified. I'm not requesting that there be a presentation, but just a dissemination of information, I think, because with DOT staff here, is there a time where there's probably a spreadsheet or a list of sorts for projects that are awarded across the state that could be given to the local jurisdictions and these particular committees on the MPO?
To answer your question, yes, there is a list that we receive of who gets awarded and not awarded. And yeah, at the commission meeting, yeah, that's when that's presented at the Transportation Commission meeting. They have a special committee meeting to do TPF projects every year.
Is that something that you guys can forward to us or to the MPO to distribute to the various boards?
Sure, we can forward it to the MPO, but it's public record. So after the state commission meeting, in the minutes, all the projects that are awarded are listed. But if that is something you guys would like to see, we probably can help with that.
Yeah, I think that'd be something that'd be useful. I think it'd be especially useful to see what gets funded. I think we'd be interested to know, so next year we have a better plan. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Any more comments, questions?
Mr. Chair, I do have one more question. Recalling when the announcement went out last year, I think there was some commentary about the type of projects that DOT staff were looking for, perhaps, or maybe it was just a recommendation. I believe last year the word shovel-ready was used. Just curious if there's any additional insight like that this year for the entities to be better prepared and informed in submitting an application.
Andreas Lenen, TPF funding is for regional significant projects. That is the purpose for this specific type. So there are major projects who are increased infrastructure in form of either crucial, critical structural components, congestion, or traffic flow improvement, multi-use, multi-model build-out. We, from a TPF standpoint, when we make recommendation, and in DOT, we do not select, we recommend. We do not like to recommend planning, design, and construction in one project. The main reason for that, the project time is only 30 months. So if you don't even know what you're building yet, 30 months is not a lot of time. So when we talk about shovel-ready, is actually what we mean is a phased approach. To come and ask for your planning, scoping money, then for your design money, and then after you actually have a design in hand and you have a true understanding of right-of-way impacts from construction cost, then go and ask at a third phase for the construction funds. So shovel-ready, what we mean is know what you want to build before you ask for the money. Does this answer your question?
It does. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If I could follow up on that, and MPO staff, I'd ask your advice too. If we were looking at something like right-of-way acquisition, or if there were opportunistic acquisition of land that we could get in corridors, would that be something that would, or is that too early? Or because you were talking about design, I'm talking about maybe some type of, there's property available and we get money to purchase it to reserve a corridor.
Mr. Chair, I believe that right-of-way acquisition is a use, but I would be concerned about opportunistic acquisition. I think that probably would, I suspect, I surmise that that might not be a proposal that would find a whole lot of favor within MDOT. I think MDOT is looking, even for things that are not necessarily shovel-ready per se, but I think MDOT wants there to be more concrete plans for this particular pool of money. But again, that's just my observation from having been in and out of sort of the decision-making cycle over a number of years now. But right-of-way can be done, but I don't know that opportunistic right-of-way should be thought of as a good use for that money.
If I may add to this, this TPF program is there for us to improve existing infrastructure or repair existing infrastructure in need. So that doesn't mean you could not present an application for an opportunistic approach. From the ranking process, it would not rank very high, but it doesn't mean if you have an excess of money and nobody else applies, that an application like this would be not considered.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think that's everyone. No, okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Moving on to committee and staff comments. We'll go through the groups. City of Las Cruces. I don't have any announcements. Tony, do you have anything?
I don't have any at this point, Mr. Chair, but now with the kind of full description of what the TAC is looking for, we will be presenting stuff the next meeting. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Doña County.
Mr. Chair, Doña County Community Development. Let's see, we can happily report that the Elks Drive Multi-Use Trail Phase 2, which was funded with TPF funds, has been completed. Construction is completed, and we had our final inspection and closed out the project just this past week. So we're happy to report on that.
Okay, thank you.
Daniel Sombrano, Doña County. We'll be starting sidewalks throughout the Doña County Village. Within the next 2 weeks, the contractor should be out there. And also with the road department, we chip sealed various roads throughout throughout Doña Village, including Doña County Road last fall. And now we're going to be top coating them and striping them now that it got warm again. So that's where we're at.
Okay, thank you. Town of Mesilla.
Mr. Chair, Town of Mesilla, 80 Salazar. I don't have any comments for them.
Okay, thank you. Las Cruces Public Schools. Don't think.
Mr. Chairman, Ben Serrano, have nothing to report this time.
Okay, thank you. Roadrunner Transit.
This is Mike Bartholomew. Every meeting I say we're almost moving into our new facility. I'm still going to say that we're getting close. Substantial completion is, at last I heard, is the end of February. So we're hoping to start moving in by then and be in that sometime in March. Hopefully there'll be a grand opening ribbon cutting for the facility sometime in March before I retire. That was my goal. I'd set my retirement date thinking that would have already have happened. But if that does happen, if maybe through the MPO, I'd like to invite, committee members to any ribbon cutting we have at that particular facility. As far as everything else, we're still on the process of acquiring some more electric buses. There's been some delays in the startup of the construction of our second order of buses. It may be later in 2025 before they arrive. We're kind of waiting to like a lot of agencies that get federal funding, we're kind of playing wait and see on what all falls out with all of the kind of the chaos that's going with some of the administrative changes. Things that we foresee affecting us primarily, maybe not affecting our funding, but maybe slowing down how fast we process grants and when NOFOs become available that we can start applying for more funds. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. And with that, I will be at the March meeting, but after that, I will not be available.
All right, well, I hope you don't move in and move out the same day.
It may come down to that point.
And then South Central Regional Transit.
Mr. Chair, they're absent today.
Okay, NMDOT project updates.
Andres Lenin, I-10 roadway rehabilitation project, mile marker 146 to 164 between Las Cruces and Anthony is currently in suspension. It's going to start up in spring 2025. All lanes are currently open. I-10 bridge and roadway rehabilitation project on I-10 over the University Avenue interchange, milepost 141. Traffic has been shifted into the westbound lanes and the eastbound lanes, and on off-ramps are closed for bridge construction. The speed limit has been reduced to 45 miles an hour throughout the project. The contractor's working hours are Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. US 70 road rehabilitation project, mile marker 149 to 150 within Las Cruces is ongoing. The improvements on US 70 North Main between Solano Drive and Elks Drive are ongoing. All traffic has been placed on the new eastbound lanes on US 70, and the existing westbound lanes will be closed for construction. The speed limit is reduced to 35 miles an hour throughout the construction zone. For the safety of the traveling public, the Alameda Arroyo Trail crossing remains closed. Construction hours are Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Access to all businesses will be maintained during construction. For specific project information, we have a website, www.us70mainstreet.com. US 70 roadway rehabilitation, mile marker 162 to 150 within Las Cruces, Mesa Verde Enterprises, is now in winter suspension. All lanes are open. What else we got? New Mexico 101, what is University Avenue within Mesilla. The contractor will be continuing the motel model project on University Avenue from Alameda de Mesilla to South Main Street. The roadway near the Laguna Lateral will be closed for the removal and the reconstruction of a concrete box culvert. A detour will redirect traffic from Avenida de Mesilla, West Union Avenue to McDowell Place. Drivers can expect various daytime lane closures near the intersection of Avenida de Mesilla and University Avenue throughout the duration of the project. The contractor's hour of operation will be 7 a.m. to 5:30 p.m., Monday through Friday. And then we have New Mexico 28, manhole and value cover repairs between mile marker 27 to 29. The contractor will returning to complete repairs needed to the manhole and valve covers from Calle de Norte, I think it's Norte, on New Mexico 292. Drivers should anticipate occasional closures of shoulders and side streets to facilitate these repairs. The contractor will operate from 7 to 5:30 p.m. Monday through Thursdays. Detour signs will guide motorists around side street closures. Overnight lane closures may be required. That's all we have.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I had a question with the North Main project in Las Cruces. Is there an estimated completion date for that? Has that been revised again?
It's spring of 2025.
Which year?
I checked the website and we're still posting spring, and I asked about it internally, and I was told we have a really hot spring, so June.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. All right, MPO staff updates.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have one related to a previous topic about call for projects. I just want to remind everyone that the TAP and RTP applications for this year's call are due on February 12th. I know it's a little bit confusing that things got, the two pots kind of got separated this year, but they did. First presentation of those applications will be at BPAC this month on February the 18th. So there's going to be a very, very quick turnaround of applications due, beginning the process for evaluation and approval. That'll be going before the policy board at their March meeting to get it on up to the state. So that's the only thing MPO staff has today.
Okay, thank you. Next is, we have another public comment, and maybe our public would like to speak again, or no, we're good? Okay, and then that leaves us with adjournment. I take a motion.
I move we adjourn.
Motion
Mike
second.
Bartholomew, sorry.
Angela Roberson, second.
Okay, we have motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourned.